Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to World Cinema Reviews. This is your host, Frank the Vamp. And tonight, I got a very special video for you. I'm going to do sort of a movie review, but we're going to talk about a highly controversial film that, depending on how you look at it, can either be a great adaptation of a book or it could be just in bad taste. The movie I'm talking about is Pet Sematary. Back in 1989, the very scary movie directed by Mary Lambert, the screenplay written by Stephen King, which makes a pretty faithful adaptation of the book, in my opinion, and starring Dale Midkiff, Louis Creed, Fred Gwynne, the great late Fred Gwynne as Judd, Denise Crosby as Rachel Creed, and Miko Hughes as Gage Creed. Right off the bat, let's just talk about I want to slowly first of all, just present to you what the movie is about. Just to let you know, this video will have spoilers, which I will announce in the description as well. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to hear it, best watch it and come back to this video. But for now, if you're curious and you've seen the movie, go ahead, stick with me. We're going to travel to find out what is this movie. Well, the movie, takes a Creed family moving with their young kid from Chicago to Maine, and they move to this place in the countryside near a heavy traffic road, and they get this neighbor Judd, that tells them that, hey, you know what, there's a really peculiar pet cemetery close to your house, and then start slowly describing what this pet cemetery does. As bad luck has it, the Creed's kids have a cat named Church, and this bad kitty, goes out and gets run over by a car and gets killed. Because, the father doesn't want, the child to go through grief. What they find out through Judd, that in this cemetery, if you bury your pet, they will come back to life. However, they don't come back quite the same, because they don't want to. So what Mr. Creed does, Louis Creed, he goes and does it, and Church comes back, but comes back a bad kitty and not very likable at all. And what follows is one of the biggest, most shocking thing. We see the little beautiful boy crosses the road and gets killed by a truck. And unfortunately, gets, with the grief and the horribleness, asked Judd if someone has buried a person before, can it be possible that the little boy can be brought back to life? And Judd, says, yeah, it has gone by somebody before, but what transpires is not good. If you do that, you will just bring more pain, and sometimes death is better. I love that line. So that's where I'm going to leave the plot for now. We're going to revisit and just dissect the film. But here comes the issues that most people have. And to be honest, I had issues here. There's a few. One, children in peril, children dying. It's usually not. It's a rough subject, and it's really really hard for me to watch this movie without really feeling really sad and really horrified at the same time by what happens to these children in peril, and what happens to the family afterwards. It's not good. Um, so this is rough for me. So the other thing is that, like I said, spoilers. Gage, the little kid gets killed, and he gets dug out of the his body's exhumed, and the father takes it to the pet cemetery to bury so that he can come back. But he comes back a murderer, a killer, a demon. Not the same innocent little boy that was, and that's kind of a really rough subject. I remember watching. There's a couple of movies that bother me because of it. Which is one big one is Halloween 4. Do you know Halloween 4? It's horrifying to see what the little girl becomes. She becomes a killer, and it was rough for me to watch that. It truly reminds me of this thing. Little kids becoming killers is just not very pleasant to me. So I found that in bad taste. So to me, in the beginning, I can be honestly say that I thought that this movie was not one of the best adaptations of Stephen King. I didn't like it, but I have come to a change of mind. The sudden turn came into studying what the film was and what it's trying to do. First of all, this is not a bad adaptation. In fact, Stephen King wrote the screenplay, so like I said before, this is pretty faithful to the book, and it conveys few minor changes, but it pretty much conveys the same idea. But it's actually a very powerful message that is bringing. So here comes the first one that I wanted to talk to you about. Very first powerful message that is bringing is the fact that it's addressing the loss. The loss of the children. The little kids losing their cat. At that age, it's hard for parents to say, "Hey, you know what? Your pet died." So it's easier to bring it back even in an evil form. But this is something that people avoid. And this is just pets. What about losing their parents, losing friends? Like the movie My Girl is pretty strong, and the little girl loses, her little boy companion, her little friend, and it's really tough for her, but she grew out of it, and she matured. She understood, she felt, she went through grieving, and then you become a better person from it, and then you accept. Let's face it, we live in a world where death, it's a fairly common thing. People watching this video, if you're a human being just like me, even if you're an animal, dude, you're gonna die eventually. Yeah. So the loss, experiencing the loss, it's a very important thing for children to understand. So I applaud Stephen King for actually thinking of such a heavy subject that maybe you should have a conversation with kids about death, and telling them, hey, you know what, it all could have been avoided. Tell them, hey, you know what, Church passed away, Church had an accident, but that's okay. You can cry about it. Don't even suggest getting a new pet until your child probably brings it up, if that's okay. But it goes to show you that getting over things is important. this movie is creepy, and that goes to a horror. He wanted to really shock someone. When King was writing this, he wanted you to be horrified. You're horrified because this is a very scary film. The very creepy imagery that he has. The cemetery, the bringing them back in an evil way. It goes to show you, the ability of no inability of adults to deal with grief, which is the second subject. We talk about what it is for children. What about when an adult cannot cope? How do you do that? I as life has a weird way of fiction has a weird way of imitating life. Is what I wanted to say. King having that car accident, himself in real life. Years later after this, but it was really creepy that that you have this man that loses his kid, brings it back, and then something horrifying has to put him down because he has become a killer. He killed his wife. He kills his mom, and it's really amazing. It's really incredible the fact that just like Dr. Frankenstein, he realizes his mistake and he knows he has to destroy the monster. He has to destroy his creation, and that's no longer his kid. However, he doesn't learn the lesson and does it again with a wife. And story repeats itself, which goes to the inability of human beings to deal with loss results in death or horror. Very powerful message, very powerful. Not many films go through that. So and third, which I also talked in the Friday the Third film, is not insulting our intelligence with a happy ending film. This story could not have ended anywhere near well. So have you noticed that all the books that are good, all the literature, The Great Gatsby, thank you to Mr. B. You know who you are, Mr. B, my English teacher in high school. The Old Man and the Sea, Of Mice and Men, all those books end bad because that's how life is. But you learn from it. You learn a lesson. In this, the main characters never learn. They never learn of, that they had to grieve for the loss and move on. And I know it's easier said than done. It's a very tough process, but they never do. And their punishment for that is death. And it's just, it's for shock value. It's an 11. It's an 11. So if you take all those things, you talk about, to summarize, you have explaining loss to children, unable to deal with loss as adults. The tough part of actually trying to correct a mistake that you done, which is not going to end up well. Plus, accepting a bad, unhappy ending, not being a bad ending, but then just the ending as it could. So, to summarize it, what do I think about Pet Sematary now? I still find it a sad film to see. I still don't particularly like. I would have loved something fun to happen, something not fun. Something happy, a happy ending. That would have ruined this story horribly. Something like it was all a dream, and they don't bury the cat or something, and then nothing else happens, and then they move back to Chicago or something. That would have been the stupidest movie ever. This movie had to happen. It was an important piece. It's an art. It's a very, very excellent movie. Excellent writing. Very dark. One of the creepiest, scariest. Definitely recommend it. Changed my mind completely. Watch Pet Sematary if you dare. One of the scariest adaptations. Tell me if you like it. If you didn't like it, say it. Write it on the comments. Subscribe. But I challenge you to watch this movie and give it another chance. Again, it's not in bad taste. It's actually art. That's my 2 cents. Take it easy and watch Pet Sematary if you dare. Sometimes death is better, my friends.